The Chicago Bulls have been very good to start the 2021-22 NBA season, being one of the best teams in the league, sitting at 6-2, third in the Eastern Conference. But the reason they've been so good hasn't necessarily been fully to the reason that I and many other people expected. The concern around the Chicago Bulls for this upcoming season was that their defense was going to be bad, their offense electric, but was it enough, and could their defense be good enough to carry them through to be a dark horse contender? Well, so far, those concerns haven't really rung true. The Chicago Bulls have the 5th best defensive rating in the NBA and still have a very good offense, but not as good as some people would have thought. They currently sit 9th in offensive rating in the NBA, behind the Pacers, Grizzlies, and the Hornets. Now, 9th best offense is still good, but it's not necessarily the expectations that some people had for this group. And top 5 defensive rating in the NBA is definitely not what people would have expected. Now, of course, small sample size. We're only 7, 8, 9 games into the year. 8 games for Chicago. But the fact that their defense has been this good means that if the Bulls can figure out a few more things on offense, this could be a very dangerous team that could pose some problems to some of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, the playoffs. This Bulls team has benefited largely on the offensive end thanks to the addition of DeMar DeRozan. He has been their guy on offense. He's leading them in scoring. He's been their guy in the clutch. And he's shot a lot better from deep and more threes this year than he has at pretty much any point in time in his career. Now, it's not untypical for DeMar to shoot threes earlier on in a season and then to tail off at the back end. But currently, he's making about 1 3 per game, shooting 39% from deep. He's had a couple of clutch ones late in games. And so if he continues to do that, that just makes DeMar even more scary, because DeMar is one of the best mid-range shooters in the history of the game. ISO, mid-range, he just can't be stopped. And if he starts hitting a odd 3 now, that's going to be tough to beat. Zach Levine has done his thing as well. He hasn't been as good as some people would hope. He is, of course, dealing with that ligament in his left hand, I want to say. It is some hand injury that he is playing through that has definitely held him back a bit. And so DeMar has kind of been their guy down the stretch in most games, but Levine has still been putting up nearly 26 a night and playing fine on the offensive end. The biggest problem for the Bulls so far on offense, and what's holding them back from being a top 5 offense, is Nicola Vucevic. Nicola Vucevic's play has not been good. Part of it's just due to the fact that he hasn't been incorporated properly into the offense yet, which is natural. Big men do take more time to get integrated into the offense than guards do, or wings do in the case of DeRozan. But he also hasn't played well. He's missed a lot of open shots. He's just had a lot of offensive plays and offensive nights where he's just missing a lot of things down under the rim that he should be making, leaving a lot of hook shots short, missing some layups that he just should be making. He's only averaging about 14 points per game right now, and sure, his point production is going to drop from his time in Orlando because he's not a primary option anymore. He's now the 3rd option, but he's shooting 39% from the field, and that's just not good enough. 28% from deep. Sure, he's not a great 3-point shooter. He was much better there last year. So he's got to figure out some things offensively for this team to get where they need to be. His rebounding has still been good, but his defense is not a positive. So for him to be productive on this team and for the Chicago Bulls team to be as good as it can be, Nicola Vucevic's game needs to improve. Alonzo Ball's done his thing. He's been extremely good on defense. Alex Caruso has been playing closing minutes for this team. Devontae Green has been extremely productive off of the bench and is now getting more minutes and starting with Patrick Williams out for the season. Derrick Jones Jr. has played more since Patrick Williams went out and has been quite productive as well, alongside Tony Bradley and Alonzo Johnson. Troy Brown Jr. have also played some valuable minutes alongside Ayo Dosunmu. And Kobe White is still not back from injury, which of course will greatly help their offense. But let's talk about the fact that this team is actually good on defense, because I don't think anyone expected that. 5th best defensive rating in the NBA. This team's been good on defense, man. DeMar DeRozan is still not a great defender, and Nikola Vucevic isn't a great one either. But as a team, they've been solid defensively, and their perimeter defense is really what has allowed them to be solid. Levine has been a little bit better on the defensive end. Lonzo Ball has been extremely impactful on defense, looking even better than he did last year, in my opinion. Alex Caruso has been so impactful for this team, playing 28 minutes a night, playing closing unit minutes with this group. He continues to be very active and very strong defensively as well, averaging 2.5 steals per game. Him and Lonzo combined for 4.5 steals per game, which is just so impactful. You get those points off turnovers is always nice. Javonte Green has been very active defensively as well and a decent rebounder. And then you're looking at the likes of Derek Jones Jr., who can give some good defense off of the bench. Troy Brown Jr., Alize Johnson. They have a lot of good, active, high energy, good defensive, good rebounding guys off of their bench. When thrown in alongside with Lonzo Ball, when thrown in alongside Alex Caruso, there's enough good defensive pieces here around their stars, specifically DeRozan and Vucevic, who aren't great defenders, that they can have a good defensive team. Do I think long-term throughout the season they're a top 5 defensive unit in the league? Not really. I don't look at this team on a night-to-night basis and see, oh yeah, this is a top 5 defense in the league. Like the Raptors are behind them right now. I think the Raptors are a much better defensive team. The Clippers are behind them. That's debatable. Boston are 10th. I think Boston are a better defensive team if they commit to it. The Sixers, if Ben Simmons comes back, are a better defensive team. So there's definitely some arguments to be made for, are they truly a top 5 defensive team, or is this just early on in the season they are? But nonetheless, they're not like a bottom 10 defensive team in the league, which is the main thing. They're probably a top half defense at the bare minimum. And with how good their offense is, that should be more than enough for them to be able to compete and at least be a threat in the Eastern Conference playoffs. That being said, that is my thoughts on the Chicago Bulls early on in the season. They've definitely been a positive surprise, a much better defensive team than most people expected, and DeMar DeRozan is not anywhere near the worst signing of this year's free agency, as he continues to show how underrated he is, but how impactful he is on the offensive end. Let me know what you guys think of the Chicago Bulls so far up to this point in time in the season. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. That being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.